Meaning is a concept we humans sometimes ponder. What is the meaning of life? Why does life exist? What is my role in this world? We ask ourselves these questions from time to time, striving to give our own existence a sense of purpose. That is because meaning is a fundamental need for us. I believe we need meaning the most when we're suffering. Why am I the one going through this pain? What does this pain mean? Questions like these disturb us deeply. Moreover, when we fail to attach any meaning to our suffering, we make it even more unbearable. Psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, author of Man's Search for Meaning, was among those who tried to find meaning in the pain he endured. He experienced one of the most agonizing ordeals imaginable, being held captive in a Nazi concentration camp for 3 years. During that period, he was subjected to various forms of torture, went hungry on most days, and battled deadly illnesses. His mother, father, brother, and wife were also imprisoned in these camps, and sadly, all 4 of them perished there. Frankl, however, was one of the few who survived this lethal camp. While most inmates were systematically killed by the Nazis, some died from disease and starvation. Others, unable to bear the pain any longer, chose to take their own lives. The manner in which one of Frankl's fellow prisoners died, however, was quite peculiar. This friend told Frankl about a dream in which he was promised freedom on March 30th. He interpreted it as a divine message and believed with all his heart that his captivity would end on March 30th. But events did not unfold as he expected. As March 30th drew closer, the war intensified and camp conditions became harsher than ever. Gradually, he lost faith in his dream. On March 29th, he fell ill. On March 30th, he lost consciousness, and on March 31st, he died. Everyone else in the camp assumed he died of disease. Yet Frankl believed the real cause of death was disappointment and the loss of all hope for the future. Once his sense of meaning vanished, his immune system collapsed and illness overwhelmed him. From this tragic example, Viktor Frankl concluded that in a place as harsh as a concentration camp, relying on the concept of Boven, meaning, and maintaining hope for the future were the only chances for survival. When a person loses meaning, they are essentially already dead inside. A frequently cited quote in Frankl's book, originally from Nietzsche, captures this core idea. He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. This concept of meaning likewise served as a kind of antidote for Frankl's own suffering. But how did Frankl manage to give meaning to such unbearable pain and overcome it? At this point, we look at the detailed method explained in his book, Logotherapy. The word logotherapy stems from the Greek logos and therapia. Before exploring its details, I want to highlight Frankl's intriguing exchange with his patients. As previously mentioned, Frankl was a psychiatrist who encountered many people enduring lives as full of suffering as his. He would pose this question: why don't you commit suicide? His purpose was not to encourage them to end their lives, but rather to discover the reasons that kept them going. One mother replied, "I live for my son," while a young scientist said, "I go on because of the motivation to conduct my future research." An elderly man answered, "I live to preserve my precious memories." From these answers and his own experiences in the concentration camp, Frankl devised 3 therapeutic approaches for people seeking meaning. 1. Dedicating yourself to a task. When Frankl entered the concentration camp, he had with him extensive notes he planned to transform into a book. Unfortunately, the Nazis confiscated all of those notes. Still, Frankl did not give up. He found scraps of paper in the camp and rewrote the work from scratch, hiding the pages expertly. The moment he was freed, he finished his notes and published his book. That work is the man's search for meaning we're discussing here. He truly believed this project was meaningful and that it would one day help others, a conviction that gave him hope for the future and helped him endure his hardships. Frankl also observed many of his fellow prisoners and noticed that those with a clear goal, people who dreamed of the tasks they would undertake once they were free, had a significantly higher survival rate than others. 2. To love selflessly. According to Frankl, Love underlies every form of meaning. Some people love their jobs and find purpose in them. Some live for the people they love, and others love themselves and discover meaning in their own existence. Regardless, all forms of meaning share the same foundation of love. Frankl repeatedly notes that love for his wife helped him endure the camp's suffering. This love was far from selfish. It focused entirely on the other person. Often, just the dream of being free and holding his wife again was enough to help Frankl withstand his pain. Highlighting these two approaches, Frankl shares a quote, "The more one forgets oneself by giving oneself to a cause to serve or another person to love, the more human one becomes and the more one actualizes oneself." 3. Courageously enduring hardship. Even with these methods, life can still take away the very sources of our meaning. For instance, when Frankl learned his wife had died in the camp, he experienced a profound collapse and entered a severe depression. Just as his fellow inmate sank when he lost faith in his dream, Frankl similarly faltered when he lost the person he loved most. At that moment, he recalled Nietzsche's words, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." Frankl still believed he had reasons to go on living. If his suffering was not in vain, then by helping others deal with their own suffering, he could create meaning. Sadly, no one else could fully alleviate Frankl's own pain. Not even finding a new wife would replace the one he had lost. Therefore, his only option was to face suffering courageously, in a sense, heroically. Indeed, this is the hallmark of the greatest heroes. They endure personal anguish for a cause greater than themselves. Frankl accepted the traumatic memories of the camp and the loss of his beloved, choosing to keep on living and contribute something of value to humanity, despite his grief. One of his statements about suffering encapsulates his message. Suffering ceases to be suffering at the moment it finds a meaning. Viktor Frankl's experiences prompt us to reflect once more on the importance of meaning. They show how devastating it can be to lose our sense of meaning when we suffer or face harsh conditions, but also how much we can endure if we have a purpose or a deep affection to guide us through. Indeed, man's search for meaning offers us all an inspiring roadmap. I hope this discussion gives you insight and helps you find clearer answers to the question, why should I keep living, in your own life? He who has a why to live can bear almost any how. Friedrich Nietzsche.